as it was in their rotating shifts. Of course, none of them had expected this particular assignment to stretch on for almost a year, with no end in sight. Marcus was used to the dungeon stench by now, though it didn't make that first whiff of piss and rat dung and gods knew what else any more pleasant. Even with only one prisoner in here for the past 10 months, the smell hadn't lessened any. Centuries of use had baked it into the walls. Far more disturbing were the sounds the girl had started to make the last several weeks. Bartek had been right. She was louder than usual today. A thin, reedy shriek echoed around the dungeon hall, and Marcus winced as he approached her cell door. "Has she eaten?" Marcus asked Sten, the guard standing outside the door, peering in through the barred grate. Sten startled at Marcus' arrival. In any other situation, Marcus would have severely reprimanded one of his men for being caught off guard like that. But this was not any other situation. "No, sir," Sten said. "It's like yesterday and the day before. She's just picked at it and mashed her hands in it." Marcus sighed. "At least she hasn't thrown it against the wall yet." "Not yet," Sten agreed, turning back to stare in through the grate, even though Marcus had arrived to take over his shift. Marcus understood all too well. After months of watching an innocent little girl possessed by the evils of blood magic, there was always a gut-wrenching relief at the end of a shift. And yet it was difficult to pull his eyes away, to know that while Marcus would go home to his wife and children and warm hearth, this poor child would stay here, in the dark and cold and dungeon stench yet another night. Marcus drew in a deep breath to steady himself, piss scent be damned, and looked into the cell just as the girl let out another loud shriek. The torchlight in the hallway behind him allowed him to see the small room clearly enough. A child's bed in the far corner, with a thick blanket wadded up on one end, a chamber pot in the other corner, a cloth doll on the ground, beside a pile of books whose pages had been ripped to shreds just last month. A girl with long red hair huddled in the center of the room, her small pale hands in front of her face, ripped pieces of paper littering the ground around her like patches of dirty snow. The Lady Daniella, only 11 years old. Nearing 12 now, Marcus reminded himself. Almost the age of Marcus' youngest. Not tucked away in some country estate to recover from illness, as the populace thought, but imprisoned here to protect her from herself. And the Lord General from her. In between those piercing cries, she babbled to herself, nonsense words and sounds like an infant might make, which were almost more difficult to hear. Marcus remembered well the girl who he'd been tasked to bring into the dungeon 10 months ago, crying then too, but also pleading, begging for her governess, promising that whatever she'd done to make her father mad, she wouldn't do it again. Fortunately, Lord General Diamus had prepared Marcus beforehand, that she'd beg, that she'd say anything which might gain her enough sympathy to be released, or, rather, that the blood mage controlling her would make her do those things, for that was what Marcus had to remind himself every day. This wasn't a little girl in there, but the shell of a little girl, being controlled by the vilest of magics. All of this, even now, all the hysterics and seeming madness, was merely a trick by the blood mage to get them to set her free, where she would do the mage's dark will. Or perhaps it was all just a way to torture the Lord General further. Diamus had been very vocal about his determination to eradicate blood magic and those who practiced it. It was his faith in the Lord General's determination that allowed Marcus to continue with this assignment, day after brutal day. That, and the hope that the Lord General would be able to track down the mage that had corrupted his child and make him pay, and the even greater hope that, after all this time, the Lady Daniella was still in there somewhere to save.